here's the most low hanging, I guess, answer to what Donald Trump thinks this is going to benefit him. How, I'm not quite sure, but when the professor was talking about, when Vali Nasser was talking about creating chaos, I'm not convinced that's not just an ends sometimes for Trump himself. I mean, if this was exclusively about just enriching himself, there's chances are this could have happened at any other time. But maybe he also perceives it as being helpful in the context of creating disarray in the run up to Iowa, or who knows? But at the very least, to the extent that we have any sense of the way that Donald Trump's brain works, to the extent that it works, let's go back to this clip from November, I think 16th, 2011, where Donald Trump was sitting in his crappy little billionaire office. I mean, Jesus.
It's like cluttered and I
mean, honestly, what a crap box for that kind of office, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we wouldn't know anything about that.
Well, I'm just saying, our office looks equally as crappy, but there's no billionaires around here.
You tried to make the space behind you look nice.
Exactly. Exactly. Not fake, not pictures of pretending that I enjoy my family. Here's Donald Trump in November of 2011.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. So the only way he figures that he's going to get reelected, and as sure as you're sitting there, is to start a war with Iran. Now, I'm more militant and more militaristic than the president. I believe in strength. But to start a war in order to get elected, and I believe that's going to happen, would be an outrage.
I think it was finishing. Well, so, I mean, A, he was wrong. B, for those morons out there who thought he is a dove, maybe you should just listen to what he was saying. And C, what it does tell us, though, is that's the way that he thinks
that's the way he thinks it works. And I think we already have an explanation for a lot of his behavior, which is that he does something that gets a lot of attention and makes everyone talk about him, and then he believes that boosts his profile, and then he wins a presidential election. And I think at the very, very beginning of his presidency, I wrote a thing that was basically he learned early on that if he drops some bombs or does some, even if it's a sort of military catastrophe, if there's something going on with the military, that pundits will go on TV and say he's getting presidential. He's finally getting presidential because he did some war stuff.
Right.
I think that it's possible. The mainstream media conversation about this has been very alarmingly stupid, but I don't think he's getting that exactly what he imagined he would get out of it, because people are kind of wondering, well, is there a strategy here? But I think in his sort of simple-minded way, he's like, it'll be the equivalent of it's like killing bin Laden. It'll be a great, people will talk about how presidential I am. It'll shut up all my rivals, and then boom, I'm looking good.
Right. And I think, and I want to actually segue into sort of the response that we're getting from those type of peeps. But even absent that type of response, even a completely neutral response, centers him.
Yeah.
As the leader of as the commander in chief.
Exactly.
And for him to believe that that will be, that's effective positioning, at the very least with his base. I mean, yeah. Right. I mean, the ability for him to kill somebody.
He campaigned on that. He this goes back to his sort of self-contradictory rhetoric about war and war making, but his campaign promise was, I will kill more individual people in the Middle East, but I will not have our soldiers there. That was basically his promise.
Right.
We will be killing more people, but we won't have to sacrifice anything.
And his whole the story about that general who supposedly dipped the bullets in pigs' blood to shoot Muslims, which apparently was not true, but nevertheless, that it was an effective a selling point for him. So at the very least, it's very possible that he just thinks that this is a good. This is probably maybe a threefer for him, right? Like good for my campaign, good to change the topic of impeachment, because that will put more pressure on senators. You know, one of the things that happened over the break was that you had Murkowski and Collins coming out and saying that I think maybe we should have legitimate trial.
Maybe we should.
And Doug Jones came out and said that we should have a trial. Manchin said that we should have a legit trial. That surprised me a little bit. And I imagine it surprised the White House a little bit, and it makes them a little bit nervous. On top of which, it's also quite possible, it seems to me, that, that the idea that maybe MBS feels like they've put the Khashoggi killing behind them because they just put on trial six top bodyguards who perpetrated it, the killing. Maybe they felt like now we're freed up. This is good timing. Sort of like what Wolfowitz said, right? This is the thing that we could all agree on.
Yeah.
And maybe the timing and the individual was just something that worked for everybody, everybody's agendas.